You are on.
All right, welcome everybody. I call the special meeting of the Algonquin Township Board to order. I'll give you one of these. That's into that. First, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Chapman?
For June 12th, present.
Lawrence?
Here.
Shay?
Yes. All right, I want to mention first off, the township, I believe I speak for all of us, we wish Chuck a fast recovery and hope that the best results possibly have what he gets. I understand there's been a change, and actually they're helping his status out some.
Good. Oh, good.
So, all right, next item. We'll have public comments. You have 3 minutes to speak. If you have any more, just turn them in writing. And I doubt we're gonna have a problem with it, but we'll have no trading. Just all you have to do is please give us your name. That's all that really matters. You don't need address or anything else. Anybody? Okay.
John Leonardi. And I was wondering on the agenda for new business what 16TX30 and 17X11 litigation is about. So if you can explain it during the new business, it'd be appreciated.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't think we'll have a problem with that.
No.
All right. Anybody else? Cal, what's happened? You've gone mute.
That's good.
Nobody else? All right, well, we'll move on. Okay, we're in new business now. Appointment of counsel to represent the township in certain existing cases.
Make a motion to appoint Attorney Nelson, it's John, right? John Nelson, as substitution counsel. I just want to
No.
say
It's just as counsel for the township.
counsel for the township. And I just want to clarify that it's not, well, actually, we'll do that in discussion. Appointment for John Nelson to represent the township in council
17CH 435.
in case 17CH 435
Everybody knows what that
at the rate of $250 per hour.
Second.
is. All right, let's have a discussion. You had something you wanted to?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that this was, John Nelson will not be, this is not gonna be like a duplicitous, I just, but there's a widespread concern among us and the public that we're piling on lawyers and the lawyer fees are exorbitant. I just wanna clarify that this is not a duplicate appointment of counsel. This is for one specific case instead of one other attorney we're using this one. At the same rate, at a reasonable rate, $250 per hour, so billable hour.
Okay, is that it?
As our residents asked us to do whatever we can to rein these legal costs in, that's what this is going to attempt to do, to have an attorney focus on getting a broad settlement in a number of cases so that we can move away from the litigious state that our board's in and end this drain from your resources.
Right, the primary focus being putting an end to litigation in this case.
Now, I want to compliment people taking this under their wing to try and stem some of these expenses. We've had tremendous legal expenses. Anything further?
Yeah, residents should know if you check the pedigree of John Nelson, John has been involved with townships for many, many years. He is an attorney who has argued both in the second and the third appellate courts and the Supreme Court as well. So we are getting now someone who is well respected around the state. He knows his way around the legal end and especially concerning the township. So I think we got the best person for the job.
Yeah, so we did interview him. We did have a very long, thorough interview with him in previously, so.
Okay, any more?
No.
No more? Roll call vote, please.
Chapman?
Yes,
Lawrence?
Yes.
Shay?
Yes. All right, that is the appointment of John Nelson is passed with a unanimous roll call vote. Well, next,
At $250 per hour.
excuse me,
Just to clarify, at $250 per hour, because we have appointed and set the compensation.
correct. All right, and also set the compensation. Next item, determination of temporary vacancy in supervisor's office and appointment of deputy supervisor. Where are we with that?
I think
Should
that,
we, should we declare make a declaration first, or
you can.
postpone that till
Make
next week as
a
well?
determination of a temporary vacancy. I mean, we know that Chuck is, supervisor has got a medical condition. We don't know how long he's gonna be out. You know, we have, one person who's extremely optimistic, I think, and then we have others that think he's gonna be out for 3 months or more. And we need, what fundamentally needs to happen is we need someone to do the what's called ministerial duties, and that is to do certain things such as sign checks. Okay, you're going to approve them. The clerk still has to attest to whoever signs them, and that needs to happen. My only concern is that with respect to make a determination that there's a temporary vacancy, if we may inadvertently start the clock running as far as I don't think we have anyone identified yet to appoint. So I think probably we should wait. I mean, it's up to you. You can do it right now. Okay. However,
we'll wait.
okay. But without knowing who we're going to appoint, and I don't think there's any urgency. We haven't had a meeting yet in which we're going to approve bills and checks to be signed. That's coming up next week. So you could either vote for it now or wait until next week. It's up to you.
The last I understood, there was a potential that Chuck could still sign checks.
Okay.
That was the last information I had.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to table the determination of temporary vacancy in supervisor's office and appointment of deputy supervisor until next week's regularly scheduled meeting a week from today.
Second,
All right, I'm gonna start the discussion. The first thing is we should have a breakdown from Jim supplied of what the various options under different things that are done with this are. In other words, what little I've read of it, there are different forms. There's one, a temporary or a person, and there's others that are almost like a person is never there again. And I think we should know where we're going and what the possible ramifications are, depending on how we go, so that we don't make a mistake in what we determine.
I agree. I don't think that this should be a rush to judgment, especially since he, I guess in some capacity, is still able to sign check, at least for the next week. We'll be able to,
Right.
manage so that we can make an educated and informed decision and, without rushing into it.
I think someone needs to find out what his status is, because I don't.
Yes,
See, if-
we'll
without
we'll need
information,
something in
yes.
writing, in order to determine that, so
I just had the one communication and that was it.
we'll take care of that.
Yeah, I had, in fact, I talked to Cal, and I mentioned that I was very guarded about the information and,
Mhm.
you know, how much you can't force somebody with information, so.
And HIPAA laws.
Cause we had some that was maybe variable along the way too. I don't know where it came from at times, and I've had different, let's call it, information for anything fed. And I don't know that we've had a definitive, just as you said, what the outlook is. We may be able to, after some certain level of rehabilitation, get an idea. That sometimes the rehabilitators can, they deal with that stuff every day.
If the board's okay, I'll call Darlene, Chuck's wife, and I'll ask her for a written status, and that can be signed by their physician and bring that back to the board.
All right, well, if that, yes, if
You
she's
can
willing.
obtain that,
yeah.
if anyone is willing, if she's willing to provide that to the board, then we of course welcome it. That's what we need.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we've got a motion to table to the next meeting, which is next week on Wednesday. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ain't nobody to oppose. All right, that motion to table the temporary vacancy determination and appointment, at best, is till next week's meeting, which will be, next Wednesday. All right, now, to those that are interested in 16 TX30 and 17 TX11, we have, the next item is to approve the settlement of this litigation.
I make a motion to approve and ratify the settlement of litigation in 16 TX30 and 17 TX11.
Second?
Okay, all right, let's open that up, and maybe for the sake of people that are here, give a general idea what we were doing, right?
Okay, so 16 TX30 and 17 TX11 are case numbers for what are called tax objection lawsuits that were filed on behalf of an independent property taxpayer and filed with regards to allegations of excessive accumulation of funds. And the reason why we're moving to approve it now is because normally litigation, conversation regarding litigation occurs in closed session. Obviously, we don't want our opposing counsel to know our strategies or what we like or what we're working towards, etc. But yet we still do need a final vote to officially approve it and make it public. Now, previously, each member of the board in executive executive session had all independently and without even needing to vote, had all directed and advised our attorney to work towards a certain outcome. Our attorney reached that outcome successfully, and now we are ratifying that decision and approving that in an official vote in open session.
Did you have anything on that?
Yeah. So let's try this, Rachel. What have you done as a board in order to make sure that we don't accumulate excess money in the future that somebody could come in and then just file a lawsuit and get?
Well, this will, could I?
Absolutely.
You know, that part of, well, these two settlements will hopefully, two things have happened. First, a new law was adopted by the state of Illinois, which before there was this something called the Miller Rule coming out of a Illinois Supreme Court case that came up with this odd formula, and the way it was applied was that you could have between two times your annual expenditures average over 3 years to 2.8 times your average expenditure. And so these cases kept coming up, And now the state legislature adopted a year ago a statute that said they sort of split the baby. You have 2.5 times the amount of the money you require on an annual expense basis to pay your expenses. So that moves the bar for the township. Secondly, these payments are effectively going to reduce that accumulation. What these cases are about is essentially the township or any government is collecting more money from the taxpayers than they need. So they shouldn't be collecting those funds because they don't need them. In theory, the law was back in the 30s, you shouldn't get 1 cent more than you actually need. Now, that's virtually impossible for townships because of the tax cycle and your budget cycle. You will always need to have 3 months of accumulation. I mean, you just have to, or you won't be able to operate. Or you'll have to go out and get tax anticipation warrants. But what the settlement does is it effectively reduces the amount of money for next year, so that most likely you'll be under the threshold. There's only one fund that applies to the township that the township still has to look at addressing. And I think I've suggested to the board before that what they do is do an abatement levy for what they need so they don't lose their funding, but then prior to the taxes being collected, abate it. So that way it's never collected from the taxpayers, but it reduces the amount of money you have on hand. So those are the ways that you can address that. And as I think I told the board, I worked with another governmental entity that they had a GA, which was inadvertently, it got out of hand and they got much more than 3 times of what they needed. And they, over 10 years of these types of lawsuits and grossly reducing their levy,
Yes.
it took them 10 years to get to the point where they had sufficient funds. So that's, but it happens basically because governments are afraid of what's going to happen next. I mean, is there going to be some huge downturn in taxes not be collected for some reason, or will they have a huge expense? So, and that's unfortunately the reality of it is right now you can only accumulate 2.5 as of a year ago.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, one of the problems is that with the tax limiting, if you cut substantially back and you have a project you're going to want to do, you can't do it. We have some situations here that are probably going to be needed in the future. And unless we start dedicating distinct funds for that, we will not have the money on hand.
That's where the new law comes into play with it. That's where the new law that just recently came into effect will come into play and allow us to do that in the future.
But the new law has a specific carve out for capital type projects. So they take those out of that 2.5.
Okay.
So that's why you're not really making a payment here. You're just not going to be collecting as much next year, which helps you
to meet that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further?
Jim, did more of these lawsuits come up? I mean, I know they've been happening all the time, but periodically.
They've always been rampant, I would say, in Cook County. For 30 years. I mean, we're not talking about, I represented one unit of government, and I went into the courtroom and there were 200 units of government that were involved.
Wow.
And I was just one of them. And our amount of money was, the funds that were in excess were less than $20,000. So it was easy for us to resolve that case. But there were still another 100 and some odd units of government in it.
And these types of tax objection lawsuits have been going on long before this board ever
Oh,
took.
yeah. It's a relatively
correct?
new event. It's a new event in McHenry County. I mean, the last 5 years is when they've started to occur.
Well, I just wanted to know because as levies go down, the money that's already in the bank waiting for that special project but not dedicated, that's still there. And as the levy goes down, now it's easier to hit that 2.5 times cap.
Correct.
And with the reduction of the number of years that this previous board and ours have taken, I think it was a fair settlement, and it'll lock this up and we'll get done with it.
And I think probably Mr. Shea can probably address some of this, but the previous supervisor here was county board chairman. And I know when she was and I think Kale remembers this, there was a huge problem probably 15, 18 years ago, where the county always attempted to maintain at least a 3 to 6 months surplusage, and they lost 2 or 3 car dealerships out of the county. They went to municipalities, and a number of other things occurred where suddenly they were in this position where, and I just distinctly recall it because they wanted to cut the sheriff's office by a number of personnel and equipment, and the sheriff was basically came out.
We love the sheriff's office.
Yes, but the sheriff came out, and this was the thing that struck me, was that that's going to leave us like 2 patrol cars
Wow.
at night in the county based upon this new formula. I mean, the county worked around it, but that's the fear is things like that happen, and therefore you don't have the money to continue to, unless you go out and borrow it. And of course, county government.
Well, let's
right.
stay on focus. We have a motion and a second discussion.
We're done.
All right, do you have something else you wanted to add?
Oh.
Okay, then approval of this settlement would have to be a roll call vote.
Chapman,
Yes.
Lawrence.
Yes,
Shay.
Yes. All right, the next item is appointment of a township FOI, or Freedom of Information Officer. Not sure we have someone for that.
And I'm not sure that right now we actually need one today.
I would tell you that we are going to need one,
Yes.
probably within the next week or so.
And so I'll move to table this until the time certain, until next week. And we'll have further discussion on that.
second.
All right, any discussion on why you're tabling or anything? Normally you don't have to. No?
Just until the next meeting to a
Till
date
next
certain.
meeting, till a date certain.
Okay. On the tabling, we don't need a roll call. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. The tabling has passed by unanimous voice vote. All right, now we have the township training policy discussion.
I'd like to start out, again, thanking the state's attorney, Mr. Keneally, gave some ideas of things that we needed to do, and some of them are updates. And one of them is our sexual harassment policy. And what I would like to see us do is to add, right now it only covers employees. And I would like to see us add the elected officials and the board members in that policy governing. That's that. The other one was the ability, if we do that, we can also tie in our ethics into the county ethics code and have them have the committee if there are any violations. And the township has applied for that, and they are still a month away from perfecting that. The state's attorney is working on a couple of things because the township is a very special kind of animal. It doesn't fit exactly into that mode, but the state's attorney has the questions and he's reviewing those. I wanted to talk about a board policy and it's a policy, I mean, about having required training for the elected officials in Algonquin Township. Unless you came from another township where you held the same position, you really don't know it. and we should know our job and also have resources all over the state. There are plenty of opportunities for us to talk with other trustees. Townships of Illinois puts on some great webinars about it, and I want to talk to the board, and so I plan at the next meeting to present a motion, or at least a discussion, if the board supports it as a policy, to make it mandatory that we go to required training so that we know our jobs. That is it.
I just wonder if we have the authority to do that.
It's a policy.
That's all policies aren't. But
But we don't have the authority to make it law or enforce it.
It's a policy.
Yeah,
what are
okay,
you,
I see.
what are you gonna do? Tell them
Name and shame.
They're through?
Name and shame. I mean, the point is, we've had too many things come up here from day one, where, we didn't, people didn't, I didn't, know our jobs, exactly what we're supposed to do. And that's fine, for, the first little bit, but, we've got to get appropriate training and, access to other people that, are doing it. That's my
I can
opinion.
remember, I just want to share my own experience when I first started my term. And I had gone because I felt it was appropriate for me to go to this convention where there was supposedly all these educational opportunities and workshops, and there was a convention in Springfield. And so I went, and I found that every single class that I was in was, when I first went to this township, what they called it a township boot camp. It should be mentioned that all three of these events were sponsored by township officials of Illinois, and they cost the township a nominal amount of money per person attending, not to mention the reimbursement of the individual trustee or official traveling to go to these events. But when I did go, I found that it was just a regurgitation of what was already listed in township code. And I think that anybody who is capable of serving as a trustee is capable of reading township code and interpreting it. It's very plain language. I mean, you don't have to be an attorney to realize what it is. And I don't know who I guess,
Are you
it's
trying
just
to
my
say it
opinion.
was much more of a social function than an
I think it
educational
was,
function? Does that shorten up what?
I'll sum it up by saying I don't think that it's worth the cost of the what I got out of it, or what I saw when I attended those three events was not educational to me anyway. And it came at an large expense.
What you're saying is it was educational in a much different way than you expected.
Yes. Not in any way that helped my service.
I'll make an educated guess and say that you didn't collect any of the continuing education credits that were available when you were down at Townships of Illinois.
Oh, there were forms where I could have filled them out if I wanted to. What are the credits applied towards though? What is it for?
There's
You can't transfer it to a college.
it's a management certificate, and it's I'll find the name of it.
It's
but
an
it's a management
excuse to pay
certificate.
them a lot of money
So
so that
when-
you can come out of it saying, here, look, I did something.
When you go there, you find out exactly what Dillon's law is and what Dillon's law isn't, and you learn what you can do and what you can't do at the township.
You can
I also
do
didn't
that by
see,
reading
I also
township
didn't
code.
see, people, there were training meetings about how to plan the budget, how to run a board meeting, how to, they were all there. There were clerk, meetings where the clerks from around the state met. There was a trustees association, which we're a part of, which met. And so you can talk to other trustees and see that you're not the only one that has problems. Supervisors had training, the road commissioner had training. There were good presentations by attorneys, including our own Jim Kelly. So there are plenty of things that you can go and get out of that training if you go there in order to get the training and intend to bring it back to the township. That's what I did. I'm not saying anybody else has to, but I'm saying
Well,
that,
that's exactly what you're saying, is that somebody, you're trying to institute a policy to make it so that other people have to.
correct, yes. Yes, absolutely. We
You
should
offered this the township training discussion is strictly for discussion.
It is, yes.
There's no.
No,
Okay,
none whatsoever.
so I will await what we get back at least from Keneally,
Yes,
and you're chasing that, right?
I am.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, old business, do we have a need for anything else? That may not be true, but it's the answer I want.
But in the special meeting, we really can't bring up anything that's
Not on there.
not specifically listed.
All right, we'll move down to, does anybody have any other business under that you just wanted to bring for information's sake? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned at 5:31 and a half.
Okay.
And